debate with me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. I just wanted to come and let you guys know, because we've been extremely patient with this process that Washington is going through with the offensive coordinator search. Some teams have already filled vacancies. You're seeing head coaches be hired now. So you're seeing teams start to make moves. I'm just going to let you guys know your patience will be rewarded next week. I think our offseason officially gets underway next week. Next week is when I think we will finally find our new offensive coordinator. I'm almost 100% certain that we will choose and select an offensive coordinator next week after the Super Bowl. Daniel Snyder will begin the process of selling the Washington Commanders next week as well. I don't know how long that process is going to take. Will this thing be completed by March? Will this thing be completed by April, May? I don't know. That I do not know. I've heard sooner rather than later, at least 5 different times from different sources, but we'll see what happens with this sale. But it's going to happen. I'm not even thinking about this not occurring at this point. It's happening. I don't know if he'll sell every single share that he owns. I don't care as long as he's no longer the majority owner and doesn't have any decision-making power. Personally, sell everything, be done with it, wash your hands, go to Europe, leave us be, okay? So I think that process gets started next week as well. The NFL does not like to step on its own toes. They don't mind stepping on another league's toes. You saw what they did on Christmas Day, completely taking Christmas Day from the NBA because it landed on a Sunday. You saw what they did. I mean, completely said, give me that, NBA. I know you usually run Christmas Day. We'll take it from here. Thanks. So they have no problem stepping on Major League Baseball's toes or stepping on the NBA's toes, but they do not step on their own toes. So the Super Bowl is the big thing, the big spectacle that's coming up this week. They're not going to be having any discussions about selling the Washington Commanders franchise. They're not going to have those discussions now, not with their biggest game of the season coming up. No chance. So all of that's going to be pushed to the back burner. They'll start those discussions next week. You'll start to hear more and more about it next week as we, I think, really embark upon what is the most massive offseason in this franchise's history. Okay. Now, that's a pretty grandiose statement, but when you've been a fan, and I can't even begin to relate to those who have been fans of this organization for 40 and 50. Well, shit, I've been a fan of this team for damn near 40 years, 50, 60 years. And you saw the glory years, and then you saw this thing damn near burnt to the ground, and you thought you'd never see the day that may be coming, that is coming, not maybe, is coming here shortly when Daniel Snyder sells, and we have an opportunity. There's no guarantee that this new owner comes in and turns this organization around. He could be just as bad, if not worse, than Daniel Snyder. We don't know, but we're willing to find out. After going through what we've gone through for the last 20 plus years, we're willing to find out what the grass looks like on the other side, okay? Is that grass greener on the other side? I don't know. It can't be any browner. It can't be any more rotten, okay, than the grass we've been walking on for the last 20 plus years. So whatever that grass is, it's definitely going to be better than this grass. If not, it's going to be equally as bad. It can't be any worse, right? So we're willing to find out what it looks like. So just off the strength of that alone, this is a massive offseason, the biggest in franchise history. We're getting an opportunity to take our organization back. All right. We don't know what the end game is going to be. Like, are we going to have a great owner? Is that owner going to lead to people wanting to work here? Are we going to turn this thing around? Are we going to find us a quarterback now all of a sudden? Are we going to transform this organization and morph it back into what it once was, is a proud organization of one of the best teams in sports, not of the NFL, of sports? I don't know if that's going to ultimately happen. But it wasn't going to happen with Daniel Snyder here. So that's going to get underway starting next week, I believe. But I think more importantly for us, the thing that we can touch right now, the thing that's really tangible, is the offensive coordinator position. That's going to be filled next week because they're only waiting on Eric Bieniemy. I don't think they're interviewing any more candidates after Eric Bieniemy. I think that's the guy that they want. They're going to interview him. We'll see how the interview goes. If it doesn't go well, they've got guys that they can fall back on. If Baltimore, who I think they're kind of zeroing in on Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator from Georgia, they've already met with him twice. They still want to speak to Eric Bieniemy. And if I'm Bieniemy, I'm going to Baltimore first before I go to Washington to see what they're talking about. And then if Baltimore likes what they hear from Bieniemy, they could go in that direction, and that would leave us high and dry. And then we've got options of guys that we've already interviewed. I don't think there are any more candidates that are going to be interviewed. And I think Bieniemy is going to do his due diligence. I think every team that's waiting on him, he's going to interview with them. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't interview with every single team and then, find the right situation for him and then make a decision, right? Whatever the case may be, he's Washington's number one target. That's who they want the most. Now, if they don't get him, they've got guys that they've interviewed already that they like, that I think they've been impressed with, and they'll make a decision based off of the guys that they've already hired. I don't expect Washington to be turned away by Eric Bieniemy and then say, all right, we're going to interview 3 or 4 more candidates. They've already went through the candidacy pool. They've already picked out and identified the guys that they wanted to interview. A couple of them turned them down. The others they've already interviewed. I think they're done with the process after they get their hands on Bieniemy. And once they do, they'll make a decision and they'll offer the job to Bieniemy, I believe. And whether he takes the job or he goes somewhere else is up to him. If he doesn't take the job here, they've got other guys. They've got a plan B, plan C, and they'll go in that direction. But we will have an offensive coordinator here in Washington that we can sink our teeth into. We can pick apart, piece by piece, whether he's got experience and we can go back on, past experiences and talk about what this guy is or isn't going to be for us, or he doesn't have any experience and then we're allowed to draw inferences. One way or the other, we're going to have some resolution to that situation, and then we can turn our focus to ownership and then re-signing Daron Payne, Cam Curl extension, all of that good stuff. Is Cole Holcomb going to be back here? Then you start turning your attention to your own free agents. And as fans, we're going to start turning our attention to external free agents. All the internal guys we're going to talk about ad nauseum. Then we're going to start looking at other teams' free agents, and we're going to start looking at the draft and what we can do to take this team from a fringe playoff team and push them over the hump. And so we'll see what happens. But next week, I'm just here to tell you, next week is when our offseason officially gets underway, because we're going to have us a new offensive coordinator next week, and we're going to start seeing the ball roll with the ownership movement. And we're hoping that happens sooner rather than later. Honestly, it really doesn't matter the timing of it, because the only thing that would be impacted by doing it sooner would be if they were really thinking about getting rid of Ron Rivera this year, and they're not. It's all but impossible to get rid of Rivera, his staff, all of the scouts that have been working on the draft. All of that stuff is tied into this season. You have to let it play itself out. So it really, as long as it's done before we start talking about training camp, this, that, and the third, I'm all right. I mean, I'm all for it. Everything, it'll take care of itself. Just want it done. But the speed at which it happens, as long as I know it's going to occur this offseason, I'm not worried. Okay. But all of those processes, I think, get underway next week. So that's all I really had for you. We'll be live on Thursday night, and we'll have more to discuss. I'll have some topics that I want to bring to the forefront. We'll start to look at some other positions in free agency, kind of talk about a plan that we want to formulate. What's the most important thing that Washington has to do? Because I truly believe we're moving forward with Sam Howell this year as the quarterback. I don't think they're going to be overly aggressive, although I do think they're going to inquire about some of these veteran quarterbacks. I do think they're going to inquire. And if one of them is very attainable, i.e. Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy they wanted last year. Now, Scott Turner's no longer here, so maybe the next coordinator's like, I'm not interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll see. But I think we're going to move forward with Sam Howell. So if you're moving forward with him, what's the next biggest thing that needs to be done? I think we can all agree. Probably needs to start with the offensive line, but we'll discuss all of that and then some on Thursday night. Looking forward to doing that. Until then, though, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, it's the command post. You know what it is. Post up and take command. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care.
LouieTeeNetwork.